This week on Head to Head, our top 5 favorite Star Wars villains.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. 2 fans, 2 generations, all things Star Wars. Begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. So I was watching Jedi Council last week. You know, I love that show.
Absolutely.
Christian Harloff, Ken Knapsack, all those guys. You guys are amazing if you ever happen to watch this. So we've been watching Jedi Council for, years, right?
Yeah.
And I was watching it last Thursday, and they happened to talk about this fan film that you can find on YouTube called Shards of the Past, Vader Episode 1. Mm-hmm. And it was written and directed by Danny Ramirez. It was brought to us by the guys at Star Wars Theory. They're another YouTube channel that's, really cool. And I was watching it, and I was just completely blown away. And I know I told you about it. Did you get a chance to see it?
Dude, man, when you sent me the link, and I was at home, recuperating, and I pulled it up on YouTube, and I was just completely blown away. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, the production value is just spot on. The guy that they got to voice Vader was really good. It's okay, if you guys ever want to make any more movies, get that guy. I mean, there were just so many different things. The story was really good. See, this is the kind of thing that we want Disney to do. For Star Wars. It's guys can do it.
We know you can. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, and, going back to Jedi Council, something that Christian Harloff has said, which I thought was a very excellent point, was that, in that particular fan film, it covered the span of what happens right after Revenge of the Sith. And I've always talked about if they were to do another movie or something like that in that time period, I would love for them to do Lords of the Sith.
Yeah, we actually brought that up on a podcast at one point.
Yeah, and I think that was actually really cool because it showed it gave you a little bit of that. It kind of showed you the whole relationship between Palpatine and Vader, and Palpatine trying to push Vader to surpass him, and seeing the stress that Vader was under, and some of his Force abilities, man. I mean, the stuff that he was doing, I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it yet, but I mean, it's really, really cool because it grabs you right from the first
scene.
Man,
you're just okay, I gotta watch it, and it's only 16 and a half minutes or something.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's not like you guys have to sit there for an hour or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of the best fan films I've ever seen.
Yeah, hands
down. And I thought some of the Darth Maul stuff was pretty cool. But this right here, I mean, the production level, and then it was actually had a story, and it was really impressive how they were able to tell a really good,
most impressive,
a really good story in 15 minutes. It's like a 15-minute short. It kind of reminded us those before the Clone Wars cartoon came out.
Yep.
They had those little
Clone Wars shorts that were a minute and a half or something.
Yeah, and they would kind of tell these little 5-10 minute stories or whatnot. It put me in the mindset of that, but just greater production value.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking these guys spent $100,000 to make that.
And they can't even recoup any of the money. That's what's so funny.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, I mean, people have been going crazy over because people want to see more Vader. And there's always that debate about, do we create more content that has Vader in it, or do we kind of move away from him? But I think people will always love Vader. I mean, but you just don't want to pigeonhole him into anything. But there is a good time period between 3 and 4.
It's relatively unexplored. I mean, granted, some of the novels and, of course, the comic series, both the 2015 and the excellent 2017, have definitely explored that time period. But to see it, though.
Yeah.
To see it in a movie form.
Yeah. And the guys that got to play Palpatine was really good.
I know, he was it was scary how much he looked like him.
And the dialogue, the dialogue wasn't as great, but I mean, it's a fan film.
And it was better than I would have thought. Yeah, it was better than I would have thought. I mean, granted, they could tighten it up. They can make it a little bit better, but hey, they only spent $100,000. I mean,
of their money.
Yeah. And when you see what they did, you guys will be amazed. Yeah. I was. And the next one's going to be $250 grand or something?
Yeah, $250 grand.
Better get that crowdfunding going.
Yeah, and it leaves you with a cliffhanger. I think I know who the Jedi is. Mm-hmm. They kind of gave you a hint.
They did.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, I think that's who it is. And if it is, man, like, that's really going to be awesome.
Well, I got another cliffhanger for you.
Yes.
Are we going to get a drink? Or are we not going to get a drink?
Oh, we're always going to get a drink. There's no
Find out in like 2 seconds. All right, let's go to the cantina then. Get that drink.
So, man, I was also reading, while after I got done watching the Vader film, I was actually checking out some stuff, and I found out the Cassian Andor series is going to start in October of this year. Not this month, this year.
October of this month.
Of this year.
Yeah, and that's pretty exciting, actually, because we know that The Mandalorian's coming out around that time. So the fact that Cassian Andor series is actually going to start production in October. Mm-hmm. So we're probably going to see that maybe in 2020.
Right.
Which would be around the time we might see season 2 of The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of really great Star Wars that's coming on.
Yeah, and the cool thing I've been reading is that it's supposed to be more of like a spy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spy kind of thing.
They can do so much cool stuff with the Cassian Andor series.
And I kind of, I kind of hope, and this is one of our favorite all-time shows, but I kind of hope they do a Star Wars version. I hope this is like a Star Wars version of 24.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Would be sweet.
I didn't even think about that, but as far as the style goes...
Yeah, the style and just that, those cliffhangers, that anticipation of fighting against, it's almost kind of like the whole terrorist, but you're just dealing with the Empire, and you're trying to steal stuff. And
So they're going to call it Parsec?
Oh.
Yeah, somebody had to say it.
Oh. But yeah, I think that would be, if they did it in that style, would be really, really cool. Because then you got to do with the whole underworld, and that kind of ties in with the whole Mandalorian thing too,
Well, I wonder if it's going to be based on like that 1313 series that they were going to have, years ago, when Lucas was actually going to make it and explore the whole underworld thing.
Yeah, I mean, Diego Luna is back to reprise the character,
which is great.
Awesome. I wonder if they're going to get Alan Tudyk to do K2SO. Is he going to be in it? Or is he?
Yeah,
does he come
what?
Later?
We haven't really read anything about that. That would be interesting.
I wonder if they're going to. Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Because I mean, like, we know he's a big part of.
I think it depends.
But we don't know when.
You know what?
Along.
And that's the thing. I'm trying to remember when K2SO. I know they even did a comic series actually on Cassian and K2SO. But I don't remember, and that might tell us. But if you guys know, let us know in the comment section. Like when K2SO met Cassian, because I don't remember.
I don't even know. So
yeah, I don't.
I'm not gonna pull any punches.
We're such great Star Wars hosts.
But so that's really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that in October. Of course, Mandalorian's gonna come out this year. Of course, Episode 9 is this year.
Yeah,
so this is the
kind of great stuff, man.
A lot of great stuff for Star Wars.
Episode 9 alone would be, super huge. But the fact that you have so many different things that are coming out in 2019 that relates to Star Wars, and that's not even the expanded stuff like the novels, the comics, Yeah.
It's going to be really cool. But the next thing is favorite Star Wars battle.
Ooh. Hoth.
Battle of Hoth?
The Battle of Hoth.
Really?
Yeah. I know. It's kind of weird, but...
Because it was short.
It was. But it was very picturesque. It was dramatic. At the time, we had never really seen a Star Wars ground battle. I mean, granted, it was like the second movie that was made, but still, if you actually go back to all the movies, you still really haven't seen anything like the Battle of Hoth. Then Darth Vader comes down and actually invades the base himself, which was just mind-blowing to me. He had those really super cool snowtroopers, which I know you got. You have a little bit of a thing about them, and I understand. It's all right. But they are cool looking. And so it just showed also the hopelessness of the rebellion. They had to abandon this base. On one hand, you're seeing the rebels like actually abandon while you still have guys that are fighting it. So there was a lot of drama in it, and it was somewhat understated. It wasn't so over the top and so crazy. So I mean, that was probably still, even though there's a lot of battles I love, an honorable mention would have to go to the Battle at Geonosis. Again, another ground battle. I know a lot of people are like, really? No space battles? But it's probably because with Star Wars, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to say that it's been done to death, but, Scarif was probably my favorite space battle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it took place above. Honestly, yeah, I think that was really cool. For me, I think I really, really got into the whole battle at the Death Star with A New Hope.
Well, that's still the original. Now
the remake though, like the remake.
Yeah, when
version.
they added all those super cool angles.
Yeah, and
showing people in cockpits.
Yeah, I thought that was just
like
really
from outside. Yeah,
it was like Top Gun in space.
Well, I mean, and let's face it, that still is the standard by which people judge space battles.
Yeah,
even aerial battles to a degree, but
yeah, I love that one. I think the Battle of Endor was like the space battle, the Battle of Endor, just because like you saw so many TIE fighters in it.
Well, that
I'm like, how were they? It was like overwhelming. It was
I
like,
would have been dead inside
like 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yep.
I would have been like that guy in Naboo.
Oh, he just flies off the hangar.
He flies out. He gets like maybe 50 feet out of the hangar. He's just shot down immediately. That would have been me. That would have been, my whole thing right there. I wouldn't have even gotten to space.
Yeah. So I think those are my two. And I guess, wow, we are head to head again. 2 space battles, 2 ground battles.
2 fans, 2 generations, but all things Star Wars. Well, what do you guys think? What's your favorite space battle? Let us know below in the comments section, or hit us up on Twitter and Facebook at HeadToHeadSW. Love to hear from you guys.
Definitely. And then, last but not least, what's your favorite Star Wars moment?
Favorite Star Wars moment? Wow. I mean, I could go the cliche thing when, Darth Vader reveals that he's Luke's father. That was big.
That was huge.
I mean, it's still a pretty poignant moment.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a kid, believe it or not, this is going to sound so stupid, especially because I'm a guy, but...
Uh-oh. Don't say it's Han and Leia kids.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man card revoked. But no, here's the thing.
Well, time to leave the cantina.
Yeah. He has had too much.
Yep. It's getting all emotional. Start texting me, you love me.
Watch for the Hallmark Movie Podcast coming up soon. No, I mean, seriously, though, hear me out on this one. It's like, you have to understand that Han Solo is my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was kind of expressing interest in her in A New Hope, but it sort of looked like, before we all knew that Luke was actually, her brother, it looked like they were the ones that were going to hook up. And it was like their whole relationship is really interesting. It has this really interesting dynamic. And the way that he ended up, kissing her for the first time, it was so totally him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I don't know, it was a moment that got to my 10-year-old or 9-year-old self that I thought it was really cool. The love theme, the Han and Leia love theme, is still one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars music.
I will agree, though. I'll definitely say that some of the scenes, we always kind of thought that Luke and Leia were going to be the thing, because that's typical. The hero gets the girl.
Right.
But I thought it was very interesting and it's really cool that they actually made them brother and sister. Although they did share that one kiss, which was like
kind of creepy.
Yes, but
I'll never forget. I know we brought this up before, but when we were watching the marathon, and they ended up kissing, the whole audience was like, "Whoa, no!"
Because of course at that time everybody knows,
right? And then he's all like, kind of putting his hand back, he just did something really cool.
Man. It's like,
and it's just like, dude, you're the man. You're kind of creepy.
But I will say Han was he was Han when he did eventually kiss Leia. But I think for me, my favorite moment was the moment when Vader was kind of calling out to Luke in Return of the Jedi when he was hiding behind that one pillar, and then he jumps out, and just that moment and the music. It's this kind of like ominous, eerie music, but seeing the two actually in a profile, like from the cinematography perspective, like the profile shot of them dueling versus kind of over the shoulder type stuff that we've seen before in Empire. It was more so like you just saw how towering Vader was over Luke, but Luke was just so relentless.
Oh, I know.
And he was just really, and it seemed like Vader was just kind of like, whoa. And the whole cut that they were doing between that moment, and you just kind of like, man, what's about to happen?
It's
like
fantastic, man.
Yeah.
It's just a really good moment.
It gave me chills, man. It still does.
But you're kind of clearing your throat a lot. Perhaps you would like to take a sip of this delicious Absol Pure water that we still don't have an affiliate link for. But it's coming.
It's coming.
No, but I'll tell you what, though.
Well, we are in the cantina, so.
We're still in the cantina. We're allowed to take a drink. But here's the thing, and this is, you bring up a good point, because I almost forgot. My actual favorite moment of Star Wars is when Luke is going into that room in Bespin, and then Darth Vader's all like, the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet.
Yeah, that's still one of the best shots.
Still gives me chills, man. I mean, just the ominous way that James Earl Jones delivers that line. I have a Christmas ornament.
Oh, yes.
That, you plug it into where, in the light socket. And so every time, you would turn the tree on or you could press this little button, it would say that line. It was a Darth Vader Christmas ornament. And I would just press that button because it's just so cool to me. That line and the way that it's delivered and just the atmosphere of the scene. Yeah,
that scene is still like, honestly, like, I would love, I know they have posters of it, but I would love like a canvas art to hang in my house of that. Just because Vader at that moment, he was like the space boogeyman. Like,
oh yeah,
the smoke was coming up and it was red and it was just very creepy.
Yeah, it was like being in the bowels of hell or something.
Exactly. It was
kind of like your background.
So,
just saying.
And
that's what I should do. Should get like a fog machine in here.
Oh, that'd be sweet. But I think that was cool that, that shot of Vader on, and of course it just shows how superior he was because he's on this platform and Luke is down here, and it was just kind of like, whoa.
There are so many things that you can dissect in that scene, and that hands down. I mean, again, it's Star Wars. There's a million amazing moments. I mean, if you really want to go into epic stuff too, when Yoda and the Emperor finally faced off, that was like a fanboy dream.
Yeah,
that was was made happen.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that and it's weird because I remember when we found out that they were actually going to duel each other. I was so ecstatic because
couldn't even sleep the night before.
Yeah, because it was like,
that's how geeky I am.
I was right. Well, I wasn't with you, but
let's clarify that now.
Let's move on. But the whole thing is that I think that was an awesome scene just because, Yoda kind of flexed his muscles a little bit, especially when he walked in and he just threw the guards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was just
guards are like, just amazingly strong. And it's like the fact that he just flings them.
Yeah. And
and then they just hit the wall and just like fall or whatever. It was just like the best.
And the fact that you finally hear Yoda kind of talk some junk to the Emperor, like, oh yeah, you're so powerful you are. Why are you leaving? Like, come on, let's go, bro. And I'm like,
I know. All
right.
Am I watching, like Revenge of the Sith, or am I watching 8 Mile?
So, I mean, it was really, really, really cool. But I think
you're gonna stick with the whole Vader.
Yeah, the Vader thing, just because I remember it still gives, even to this day, it still gives me chills. Just the mute, and that's, once again, we talked about John Williams' music.
Yeah, the music, yeah.
It was the music, and then just the pacing of it. was really, and you just really didn't know what was going to happen. Like, okay, you knew Luke was going to win this time, but how far would he go? Especially you knew he was angry.
Well, and then you also had to look at the fact, too, that he still had to deal with the Emperor. You didn't know how that was going to go down.
Or if you didn't know, I didn't know if they were going to actually team up. That's what I thought as a kid when I first saw it. That's what I thought was going to happen. Like, Vader's like, you know what? You're right. And then let's just go get him.
Yeah, that would have ended badly.
Now, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, and I'm going to stick same thing with the whole, the Force is
Leia.
with you, young Skywalker.
That one? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're changing your Leia kit.
Well, I never officially said. I just said that was one of the things that made the impression on me, which it did. I mean, you know, as
I get it.
crazy as it may be, that's still, it's in my top 5. Let's put it that way. But the Vader thing, man card firmly on the table.
All right. You have been
Favorite
redeemed,
scene.
unlike Kylo Ren.
What is next?
Well, actually, I will actually like to hear from everybody else.
I wouldn't. What's not? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, he's coming over to the dark
settled
side.
it. Look, we settled it. We don't need to hear from anybody.
No, but if we would love to actually hear what's your favorite Star Wars moment, so definitely leave it in the comments below. Hit us up on Twitter and follow us on Facebook. And also subscribe to this channel and actually follow us and leave your comments there. What's your favorite Star Wars moment with your favorite Star Wars battle? Well, next.
All right, that was a mouthful.
I know. Next, we have Duel of the Fates. So for this week, I'm going to ask you the question: which force power would you rather have? Force choke or force lightning? You got to go on the dark side on this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it was funny. Because last week we were talking about the whole, last week it was the bounty hunter versus a Sith thing, but I remember we were talking a little bit about some of the force powers and all that. So this is really a good follow-up to that, because now we're in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
We're using the Force.
Yes, we are.
I noticed they were both dark side powers, though.
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's Force Lightning versus Force Choke.
Yep.
Lightning.
Yeah, lightning has always been a favorite of yours.
It's just so cool, man. I mean, if you think about it, granted, it's a little bit showy and over the top.
Mm-hmm.
The choking thing could be a lot more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And some people could say that, okay, it's pretty persuasive. But you know what? So is being shot by a ton of force lightning, which, by the way, everybody, is a little bit more powerful than the lightning that we're used to here on the planet Earth. I forgot. I actually read that somewhere. I read that somebody who obviously has way too much time on their hands actually compared Earth lightning to force lightning. I don't even know how.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you even do that?
I don't know. But needless to say, it's pretty powerful and it hurts. Just ask Luke.
Yes.
And it's a little showy, I admit, but it can come in handy in a lot of different situations. You could use it to short out stuff. You can use it, of course, obviously, to punish people, because you can also control the intensity of it, too.
You can charge your phone.
You can charge your phone. You can electrify this delicious Absol Pure water. But, I mean, it's just one of those things that if you had to choose, because you can also, now granted, I mean, Vader did start choking people from halfway across the galaxy or whatever, but now that you couldn't necessarily do with Force Lightning.
Right.
So that's where choking has the edge. But I don't know. I just think that it's more useful in a lot more situations. And it's sort of like if you see somebody shooting lightning out of their fingers at you, because if you think about it, the Emperor never used Force Choke. It was always Vader's thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be Force Choke, though.
I kind of had a feeling.
Yeah, Force Choke is my thing. I think it's so intimidating and it's so imposing on people. And, of course, it's nothing you can do about it. Like, from lightning, you may be able to, maybe hide behind something.
Now, once you're hit.
Well, yeah, once you're hit. But, I mean...
And you don't even know what's coming.
Well, true. But I think to cut someone off in the middle of their sentence is so like unbelievably rude, but in the manner in which you do it, it's hilarious to me. Like whenever I see people get force choked, especially like by Vader, it always cracks me up. And of course, my favorite one, it used to be, the guy on the Death Star when Vader, utters the line, I find your lack of faith disturbing. But the one with Krennic, man, and in Rogue One, I mean, that was just awesome to me.
Well, and even when he was force choking Padme, I mean, that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sucked.
Aside from the fact that it was her and the emotion behind it, but when you just look at the choking itself, I mean, that was a grip. Whereas lightning, you got to like do this whole thing and.
Yeah, and
you got to direct it with the choke. You could just sit here like I am right now and just think it.
And I mean, barely lift a finger. I mean, Luke did it to the Gamorrean guard. I mean, that was awesome too. That was the one time we saw Luke, and everybody thought that he went dark because he had the black hood on. He's force choking people. Yeah,
I totally thought so. He's force choking, and you've never. In fact, I think that if I'm not mistaken, that is the only time you see a light side user force choking.
Yeah, and I think
it's generally attributed to the dark side.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that seems like something Mace would do, though.
Oh yeah,
remember we were talking about like how? Yeah, I think that's something Mace would pull. But I think the force choke is it's so menacing because you don't know where it's coming from. It's almost kind of like you could just sit here and then choke someone, and they have and you're leaving no marks. I mean, there's no evidence physically of a person being choked except for if you did, the autopsy and see that the windpipe was crushed, but no hands were around their throat. So it's just like,
or even that,
it's the perfect getaway.
I don't even know. It's almost like, you guys are like doing the autopsy on Admiral Oslo. I don't know. I think he died from a broken heart, to be honest.
Oh my God.
It's kind of what it looks like to me, but because I mean, that's the thing. It's like Padme should have had some evidence that she was force choked.
Yeah. I mean,
this is going along that question that we got last week, but still, it's like, it was obvious to me anyway.
Yeah. That she probably just had complications from that.
Or like we said last week too, that Palpatine might have actually done something to help the process along. But either way, force choke is good because you can control the intensity. But
yeah,
I still have to go with lightning.
I will say lightning is more devastating, definitely.
Lightning is devastating. Lightning, you could do all kinds of stuff. Because, I mean, if you think about it, technically...
I mean, even when Snoke did it in 8, man, when he just shocked the crap out of Kylo, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... The lightning thing is pretty devastating.
He sent that through the floor.
And honestly, there was... you know what? I don't remember if this is like canon anymore, but or if it was said in any canon material, but... Vader would use force lightning if he could, if it didn't short out his whole respirator.
Mm-hmm.
So even he wants to use it. It's just like, all right, well, lightning's out. Well, okay, I'll just do choking then. That's on the table?
Well, let us know which one you would pick. Would you pick force lightning or force choke? Leave it in the comments below. We definitely love to hear you. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter.
And you can do that at Head to Head SW.
Yes, I'm sure there's a little there somewhere dancing.
Yeah, there is. It's right there.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Maybe it's there.
So next we have From a Certain Point of View.
Oh, yes, our featured topic.
What
do we got today?
Well, this week
I know what we have because I announced it at the beginning of the show.
That you did.
Uh-huh.
So last week we did our top favorite heroes. So this week it's only fitting that we do our top 5 favorite villains. So you still want to do it the way we did last time?
Yeah, I mean, why change it, right?
Keep it consistent? All right.
Come on, we already know.
I mean, yeah, of course we got to throw... I don't want to start there, though.
All right.
So I'm going to go with...
It's going to happen eventually.
I mean, yeah. Why prolong the inevitable? I know. I'm going to say... I really want to say DJ.
Wow.
I know it's because I just feel like he was just so scummy, man.
Do you really think that he was a villain, though? I mean, of all the people, I'm not saying that everybody has to be a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I just felt like he really set them up, man. But
should I go for Watto?
Okay. All right. Fine. Kylo Ren.
Kylo's good. I'll do that.
We'll start with Kylo.
There. I'll go with Kylo as one of mine as well because of everything we talked about last week when we were dealing with the whole episode 9, is JJ going to retcon him type of thing or redeem him? Because one of the things that's really interesting about Kylo is that he's so unhinged, and we've never seen that in any of the villains, really.
Yeah, I think he's unstable, and the thing is I've never seen anyone with his type of force ability either to actually extract stuff out of people's minds and things of that nature.
Or stop blaster bolts in midair.
That too. Or actually get
Shards of the Past. There was that really cool scene.
Oh, my God. That was so dope.
I know. He just stopped them all. I mean, I shouldn't even say this. Spoiler alert. But
we just really want you to see this.
Yeah, we want you to see it, though. I mean, that was just... Yeah. That was taking the Kylo Ren thing that we saw and go, how could we up this?
Yeah, it's like, who's your daddy?
Yeah,
I'm your granddaddy. So
that's right.
But yeah, definitely Kylo. I loved his temper tantrum. And speaking of, even we just came out of Duel of the Fates, the whole force choke. Man, when he grabbed that one guy, he was like, what girl? And he dragged him like with the force. That was just impressive. I was like, dude.
Oh, I know. His feet were all
dragging
on the floor.
Yeah, man, it was awesome.
Well, I mean, another impressive use of the Force that goes along those same lines. It wasn't Kylo, but it was Snoke when he just took Hux.
Oh, yeah.
Like, lifted him, slammed him on the floor, turned him around. It's just like, yeah, it just shows you.
In front of everybody, too, man.
In front of everybody.
It's just so
Talk about undermining your authority.
Man. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, Kylo is definitely one, and especially, his whole motive behind everything and his whole rationale of what he's doing. I just think that's what makes him a really cool villain. All right, you're up, Slugger.
All right. The dude from Contra Club. No, I'm just
Oh, man.
I'm going to say Jabba the Hutt. Jabba's a very important criminal. He made things
He's the boss.
Pretty messed up. He enslaved Leia.
Yeah.
He ran a bunch of stuff, hunted down Han.
He's the only reason why Han was in Carbonite.
Yep. He controls all the crime that's at least in the area of Tatooine, and we know
in the Outer Rim, in the little Outer Rim areas.
Yeah. I mean, he was a really good villain. And if you think about the power that he has, he's kind of a slug. It's like, how is he enforcing all this?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something freaky about him. And he just played a really important, because that's the thing. My criteria is, it's not just how powerful they are or maybe how evil they are. It also has to do with their importance in the Star Wars storyline.
Mm-hmm.
What were their contributions? That's how I chose the heroes in a lot of ways, too. Remember back when I said R2-D2?
Yeah.
R2-D2, arguably, as I pointed out, without him, there would have been no victories, and a lot of people would have been dead. And, there's just a lot of things that he did directly, not just contributed to, but he did that directly altered the whole course of the universe, far more than even somebody like Obi-Wan. So on the flip side of that, I'm trying to think of people that actually really influenced.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Jabba for my number 2.
Okay, well, I'll see your Jabba and raise you a Grievous.
Grievous? Well, that's an interesting choice.
Yes,
I can see that.
Grievous is because...
He's interesting. He's cool.
Even though he kind of, got his butt handed to him by Obi-Wan a little bit, but not necessarily easily. And that's not so easily. And
no, he was a pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, because he's actually a military strategist. And the other thing about him is that he's actually killed Jedi, and he's actually collected their lightsabers. He's had them, he's kind of a terror, and people really didn't know how to deal with him because he was actually trained in the Jedi arts by Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
And so he knows a lot of the Jedi tricks. He knows a lot of the movements. And because he has extra limbs that he can use at his disposal, he's incredibly strong. He's very cunning, as we saw. So I just think that, he's very formidable as a villain. And it takes someone with an exceptional skill like an Anakin or Obi-Wan to truly defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't even defeated with a lightsaber like we would thought. He was defeated by a blaster bolt, and that's just, it was almost like an unconventional way for a Jedi to kill someone.
No, I get that.
So I'm going to put Grievous on there.
All right. So my number 3 is going to be Dooku.
Okay.
Simply because, once again, he was at least the face. We know he really wasn't the leader of the Separatist movement, but he was the face of the Separatist movement.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former Jedi who turned and became a Sith Lord, not just a dark side user, full-blown Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something we hadn't really seen before. He had a very regal, majestic, noble sort of way about him.
Definitely.
Very aristocratic.
Yeah.
And it's a Sith Lord we've never seen.
Yeah.
He wasn't all twisted and knotted up. He actually had somewhat of an air of...
He was more of a political villain. Like, he's very political, but tyrannical at the same time. Like a Castro almost.
Yeah, and he just had this regal thing about him. And it was a really interesting Sith that you don't usually see. He wasn't like a Darth Maul or a Vader or any of these guys that we've seen. He was almost like this pleasant gentleman in a way. Like that whole interrogation thing he did of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Christopher Lee really did a good job doing that.
He really did. I mean, and he turned out to be a really cool character that I thought,
Okay.
It was number 3 for you.
3 for me is going to be Thrawn.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I should have chosen him. Thrawn's like been my boy since Heir to the Empire, back when he was introduced.
Yeah, Thrawn is cool, man. I mean, he's almost has that Dooku-ish ways where he's
they're very
similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, in the way they conduct themselves, and he's almost like doesn't go above a whisper. He's just very calm, level, but he's so calculating. He's so
and he's a really interesting character.
Far ahead of everybody. He's always like 8 moves ahead. You just haven't caught up to him yet. And it's amazing.
Yeah, those guys would be almost high for me. The only reason why I chose Dooku over Thrawn was just because Dooku affected
a lot.
The story and everything a lot more than Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
But Thrawn was somebody that I thought was just an amazingly written character. He's almost like Tarkin to the 10th power. And I could have put Tarkin into this list easily.
Yeah, definitely. I think,
but there's only 2 slots left, and you
gotta have the two baddest of the galaxy, man, and that's Vader and Palpatine. Yeah, go for Palpatine.
Which, if you guys haven't seen that Robot Chicken,
oh my goodness,
where
please.
Yeah,
it's this whole thing on Robot Chicken, says spoof.
We'll put the link.
Yeah, where it's right after the Death Star is blown up, and Palpatine is trying to figure out where the heck Vader is, and Vader calls in from his TIE fighter, like on some intercom or some intergalactic cell phone, and he's letting Vader have it, and it's by far like one of the funniest
One
things.
of the most hilarious. I mean, all the Robot Chicken Star Wars spoofs are funny, but this one
it's
is
priceless.
like the king of them all, in my opinion. In your opinion, too,
I can't even think about it and not like even start to chuckle because
it's just too funny.
It's too funny, man. But
those 2 guys,
Vader and Palpatine, for everybody knows why. It's almost we don't even need to.
Yeah, we really don't even need to explain this. I mean, but for the newbies,
I mean,
number 1, they had the most effect, the greatest effect on the story.
Yeah, it completely changed the landscape of the galaxy. And
they're arguably the most powerful of the dark side users.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few that may have had more power.
Like Plagueis.
Well, there's Plagueis, Exar Kun, maybe
Bane.
Bane.
Yeah, but
I mean, we don't really know too much about them anyway, and it's like Palpatine and Vader, they're the fan favorites for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're just
they're the
really
most menacing.
They're the most menacing. They're really interesting characters.
Yep.
And again, they had the most impact on the Star Wars saga.
Absolutely. All right.
Well, let us know what you guys think. You know, hit us up in the comments section below. Look, write to us on Facebook and Twitter, Head to Head SW. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Who are your top 5 favorite villains? All right.
All right. Well, we come to your favorite.
Yes, one of my all-time favorite segments because I love talking to you guys. I like to get your questions. It's a little segment we call Clear Your Mind. All right, who we got first?
John Matthews. John Matthew writes, with Kylo Ren being more unpredictable and more of a loose cannon, do you think he's scarier than Vader?
I don't think he's scarier than Vader, per se, only because Vader was way more powerful, and everybody you hit the nail on the head when you call him essentially the Star Wars boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes Kylo scary, of course, is that, he's kind of unhinged, he's a loose cannon, but ultimately he is an overgrown child.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of power, and you do have to be careful, but, there was a lot of things that happened, and he didn't, he wasn't choking everybody out or doing stuff like that. Vader's very cold and calculating, and I think he's just scary because he is so in control.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take anything. I mean, you can argue a little bit with Kylo, and then eventually, he'll do what he did to Hux. But, it really is kind of a toss-up, though. I can see why the person who wrote that question was kind of like, well...
Yeah, I mean, I think John it's a great question that John asked, and I think that when I first read it, I instantly was just like, well, of course it's Vader. But then I had to stop and think about it. And I can't say they're neck and neck, but sort of, kind of. Because the thing that makes Kylo so interesting is, like we've always said, he's so unhinged. And there's nothing worse than an unpredictable person because you don't know you almost are, they make you uneasy.
Yeah,
Vader is
they're more
like
dangerous.
Vader is kind of more like if you do your job, he doesn't bother you.
That's true.
It's just like, okay, if you get things done, he's just like, well, fine. Now, he's almost like that.
Kylo's in a lot of ways the same way, though.
But Kylo, the thing about Kylo is that...
Although he is one of those guys that's liable to decapitate you with his lightsaber just because he's mad.
Yeah, it's because you
it's nothing you did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't do anything, but somebody else may have failed, or Snoke might have fussed at him or something, and then now he's ticked off for the rest of the day.
Right, so he just chokes somebody out.
Yeah, Vader's not like that. Vader's just more like, okay, whatever. And
the best is when the Millennium Falcon went into light speed.
Oh, he just looked.
And he's looking like, okay, this is just...
That is a funny, hilarious moment. And it was funny. The funniest part about that was the response, the looks on the faces of everybody else. Because they knew what happened. They all were looking up at him like, man, I hope he doesn't come my way. Like, they were all looking up.
But I mean, it was Admiral Piet at the time. And he was standing next to Vader because he was the one. Mm-hmm. Would you put it was done or whatever. And then when it just shot off into hyperspace, Piet was just like, oh, it's coming.
Yep.
Let me just loosen up the collar really fast to make this. And then Vader just walks away.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're like, okay, is he going to blame me for this? But he didn't. And I think that's the key. Whereas Kylo may have.
The thing about Vader, too, is that although they both, and Vader's tall, and Kylo is tall, too. Like, Adam Driver himself is a pretty tall individual.
Yep.
But, the thing about Vader, I think that more people have seen Kylo with his helmet off. They know he doesn't, but the Vader is just...
We've seen Kylo with his shirt off.
I mean,
Although we have seen Anakin too, though, but
yeah, but he was Anakin then.
That's true. Wasn't like Vader's coming in shirtless, you know.
One time we saw Vader with his helmet off when he was getting it cleaned.
Yes.
You know, he sent the helmet to the dry cleaners or whatever. But outside of that, though, like, I think that's what makes Vader creepy is just the fact that he's like this entity behind.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, who is this guy? He came out of nowhere all of a sudden. He's like the Emperor's enforcer. It's like, who is this guy? He's all mysterious. They probably had a bunch of stories they made up.
Yeah, and then he's super tall. He's bulky. And then on top of it, he has this booming voice. I mean, that's where James Earl Jones like really brings the character to life because,
absolutely.
You know, you kind of, you know, you listen to Kylo's version of it, it kind of sounds like, you know, a bad cell signal in like in a tunnel somewhere. But like Vader has this clear, distinct, booming voice that's really like, okay.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because one of the things that has always gone around YouTube that everybody loves is the original when David Prowse was doing the dialogue as kind of like a marker and how terrible it sounds. Funny thing is, there was a documentary that they did on David Prowse. It was a great documentary. It's so good. And in fact, the filmmakers, is kind of like a thank you and a favor to him, reshot the ending scene of Return of the Jedi with him.
Oh, yeah, as the ghost.
Well, no, like as that whole help me take this mask off.
Right, yeah.
All that stuff, right? Let him do the whole thing that recreated the set, everything. Well, the thing that was cool was he was talking about how, yeah, you know, my voice didn't sound cool, but he was like, I could do it now, and he did. And he sounded a lot like James Earl Jones, and it was, if he had sounded that way back then, we probably would have gotten Prowse doing the voice as well. But if you haven't seen that documentary, you should check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vader's just, he edges out Kylo just because of, there's almost like a sense of grandeur when Vader steps into this. It's like he walks with that air of confidence and you don't know what he's thinking, almost. Whereas Kylo, you can tell in his body language, like when he's walking fast, you know he's irritated. You know, you can tell certain subtleties in his body language tells it all. Where I think where Vader is just more, like you said, calculated. He's going down a path, and
well, not to mention
the fact, you don't know how he's going to come at you.
Right, and the thing is you have to think about the fact that when Kylo lashes out, that's what it is. He's just lashing out. Whereas when Vader's doing it, he means to do it.
Yeah.
And that's scarier.
Yeah, and it's like,
it's not a reaction.
It's very intentional. Absolutely.
All right, who's next?
Great question, Matt. I mean, John.
One of them.
Well, his last name is Matthews. So the next question comes from Allison Imperio. How did Qui-Gon learn to become a Force ghost before Yoda? Isn't Yoda a Grandmaster? And did Yoda train Mace Windu? I believe she's probably asking about the Force ghost.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about. But the answer is really simple. It's like, look, even if you're a Grandmaster, you haven't mastered everything. I mean, you know, I played bass for a number of years, and there's still people who have been, you know, played bass far less time than I've spent doing it, and there's some technique they pick up that I'm like, wow, I never knew this, and you learn from that. You know, it just so happened that you also have to understand that I think, I could be wrong, but I think that he learned it, obviously, when he died. It was like he studied it a little bit, but then when he died, he actually was able to implement it. It's almost like you got to practice or something. And it's like he figured it out. So Yoda, of course, hadn't died yet. But then again, Qui-Gon then appeared to Yoda and then Obi-Wan. And so he taught him the trick, which we almost got to see a little bit of that in, I want to say it was episode, I want to say it was like an extra scene in 3. That there was supposed to be a little bit of an epilogue because they shot it. But it wasn't used because Liam Neeson actually came back and shot the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that your analogy to comparing it to like playing bass is spot on. I think that it's kind of a weird thing because on one hand, and I get the confusion because on one hand you have a Grandmaster who he's probably have run across this before.
Yeah, it's like how did Qui-Gon run across it
before him?
But then again, I'll have to go back and check it out. But it could be, and if you guys know, leave it in the comment section. But I think that you actually had to die to even discover this. Like, I think Qui-Gon was killed, and then he somehow...
Yeah, because he was actually...
discovered it.
And that's the thing, is like, he actually, was killed, and because, you almost have to wonder when he taught him, because, okay, you had... Well, Qui-Gon died in episode 1. And they were actually at his funeral, so he didn't turn into a Force ghost. So he actually was cremated. Then in episode 3, when they actually had Order 66 and all the other, Jedi were dying at the hands of the stormtroopers, they didn't turn.
Well, yeah, because so it's like, if you remember, but if
you have to know, it's almost like,
yeah, you have to be taught, because at the end of episode 3. When they were both on the Tantive 4, Yoda basically told Obi-Wan, hey, I actually heard from your old Jedi Master, and guess what? He's learned this really cool technique about how to come back. I got a lot of studying for you to do on Tatooine, and you can check this out for yourself. Well, prior to that, which is when 66 happened and all the other stuff, nobody knew about it. Well, Yoda was just revealing it himself, so Qui-Gon, presumably, could have even been on the Tantive 4 for all we know.
Well, I mean, I just know when there was a scene where Yoda was sitting there and he was meditating. That's when he first heard Qui-Gon's voice. And so it happened in 3, where early in the movie, right? It's just like, okay, did he find out? And then did he just say, hey, guys, in case, like, it's like, okay. Hey,
well, I think that he was still
email.
No, I mean, I think that he was trying to figure out, like, right, that should have been part of the beacon. Like, okay, stay away from the Jedi Temple, and by the way,
in case
here's a little technique in case you get popped. But,
yeah, exactly. Like, that thing we covered in lesson in your Jedi trials. Yeah, take that to this, add this to it, and you'll still be around.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I think that it's just a simple fact of the matter of Yoda didn't necessarily have time to process the whole thing until things quieted down. Because if you remember, that's true. You heard Qui-Gon or whatever earlier in the film, but things were kind of falling apart at the time. And, Yoda didn't have time to just spend to figure that out. He had to take care of some business on Kashyyyk.
Yes. His relations with the Wookiees.
Yes. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. But, hey, if you guys have a different theory, or maybe you've read something that, can shed some more light.
And that would be interesting, though, if Mace did know. Like, if Yoda had a chance to teach Mace. Well, I mean, the thing is,
I know this is like opening another can of worms, but...
Because that would explain why he could be alive.
Well, he could have been alive anyway. I mean, he only had his hands chopped off. He fell out the window. He could have landed on... He could have used the Force to soften his landing and landed anywhere. Mm-hmm. There's so many different levels.
True.
So I could definitely make an argument for him being alive.
Awesome.
That's for another...
Yeah. It's another debate for another podcast.
Yeah, it could either be a future Duel of the Fates, or it could be, maybe a big one of our featured topics.
Well, I think that does wrap it up for today, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the end of our show. So remember, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment in the comments section, hit us up at @headtoheadsw on Facebook or Twitter, and you can even go to our website at www.headtoheadswpodcast.com, where you can check out this and many of our other episodes. Also, you can stay right here on Eric Vansel Media, and you can watch all the other videos.
Yeah, definitely subscribe.
All right. Well, that's it for our show today. I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.